Jumping right into the water supply, this is again the third driest year we've had on record. It's the last couple storms. You can see those 3 bumps. That's just what's happened in March and April. So if those hadn't happened, we would really be in bad shape. But the 2 drier years are 23, 24, and 76, 77. So this is a very dry year. State Water Project. This is actually the Northern Sierra. Central and Southern Sierra were actually worse than this. The snowpack is pretty desperate.
We sold, or basically had demands for 42,000 acre-feet. It's a little more than that. If you add up the 2 supplies that Dan mentioned earlier, we've got just a little over 13,000 in supply. You do the math there, and the initial unmet need is almost 29,000 acres. We have a certain amount of capability now within the valley to move water around, locally, but getting water in the aqueduct is one of the most important things. That's where it's most difficult to have the supply. The systems we have are set up to essentially run, south to north. They're not really set up to run north to south. So getting as much water in the aqueduct, leaving as much there in the aqueduct is very important. So our first step was what I call customer self-help. And whether this be through conservation or additional pumping, we work with a number of our customers, including our largest, which is LA County, to see what we could do to help reduce the demand on the aqueduct. And we got about 14% schedule reductions right now. I think most of this is probably additional pumping that a customer is going to do, or scaling back of operations in the case of, say, an industrial customer. Secondly is using our WSSP2, our water supply stabilization project out there on the west side, to replace water. We have a couple of ways to do that. We send it through our south-north intertide pipeline, we call it SNP, and deliver it to a couple of locations out there. One large turnout that is connected to Lancaster, and another one's connected essentially to the whole north side, the whole north feeder system. And then also putting water into the west feeder. That too, we can actually gravity down into our Rosamond system, into our north side system. And then we're going to also propose essentially running it backwards into the aqueduct, and that's not an easy feat. We've got about 34% scheduled supply replacement. So overall, if you add those 2 up, we're looking at almost a 50% reduction in demand in the aqueduct, which I think is really outstanding. Without WSSP2, the foresight the board had to get that facility in place, we'd be looking for probably another 15,000 acre-feet of supply that we don't have access to now. So you do those things, do the math again. You drop the overall aqueduct demand to about 21,800 acre-feet. Again, you subtract out what we've got available to us right now in the aqueduct, and you end up with an estimated unmet need of 8,600 acre-feet. Quick supply and demand curve here. Basically, the red line shows what our supply is, and you plot that against what our scheduled deliveries and demands are. And we would have, if we don't do anything else but just take our carryover water, we would leave our Rosamond system on wells at WSSP2. We essentially have enough supply to get through the middle of August. So there's roughly 8,600 acre-feet of supply that we need to augment in order to make up that deficiency. In years past, we've done a number of different things, and some of those things are available, some of those are not. Past droughts, we've used our carryover. We're going to do that again this year. We've used carryover transfers like the one from Little Rock. Again, we're going to do that this year. Next one is State Water Contractors Dry Year Program. Now, I've got a line through this, which means, up to this point, we don't have a program, haven't had a program in place. Usually they put those in place in December. And we've got about 3,000 or 4,000 acre-feet out of that project or that program in the past. We got notification today that there might be some, what is known as Yuba cord water available, maybe as much as 1,700 acre-feet. Very expensive water. We're expecting that to be in the $700 to $800 range. And that's before, that was just to get it delivered here to the agency, to our area. We're going to continue to pursue that and look at that. So, but I've not included that in tonight's presentation. And then we've also had transfers from other contractors. Kern County Water Agency helped us out in 2008 with about a 14,000 acre foot transfer. Helped us out greatly. We used every bit of that water. We stored some of it. Worked out very well. And then last, we, as mentioned earlier, in 1991, I think Director Weisenberg was talking about us buying water from the local farmers, using local wells, and also pumping the West Feeder backward. We did about 3,000 GPM back into the aqueduct last time in 91. So looking at what we have access to get this 8,600 acre feet we need into the aqueduct. Essentially at this point we've accounted for both our carryover numbers. So we're looking at right now using local wells, doing West Feeder pump back, and then a few years ago we stored some water up in Kern County in what is known as the Strand Ranch project. We're going to have the ability to get about 2,200 acre feet out of that. There is a cost to it. So that will be detailed in a minute here. It's one of the dry year options that we're going to use for folks. This is a system diagram. It's kind of busy, but it shows overall our system, how it's laid out. You know, California Aqueduct in the far south. We have our carryover water and Strand Ranch water, which will come in into the valley from the canal. And then we're going to do a number of things to pump water back into the canal. We have some sources on the far west side, one on the east side that will pump water direct into the canal. And then we have wells that not only AVEK owns, but other parties own that we'll use to supplement the water in the system itself. And then a pump station we're proposing to put in to pump around and into the canal. Pretty good sized lift there, about 350 foot lift to get that back into the canal. So here are the four sources we're looking at tonight, and they're in order of amount, how much water we can get out of each source. Our assumptions here is that our Strand Ranch water will begin delivery and will take 4 months. We'll begin delivery May 1st. The other deliveries will start about June 1st and they'll run for a duration of 6 months. So we've got about 1,300 acre feet on the one side and as much as maybe 6,100 acre feet on the far side, and a few amounts in between. This is informative, but of course people want to know price. So I've rearranged these graphs here in order of price instead of amounts. So far left is the Strand Ranch water at about 142 acre feet, $142 an acre foot, $425 for what we call blaylock water. Our PRS-1 pump backs running the water backwards up the West Feeder at about $460, and what we call Cajon Ranch water is $525 an acre foot. I think one important thing to see out of this graph is you can see the line, the dotted line at the top is the amount that we're looking to get into the aqueduct. There isn't one solution that's going to provide that. We're going to have to use multiple solutions.
Those are not the real prices. See, the public doesn't understand. That water is about 800. Explain what's here, because I think that's right. When I see 142, man, that's no big deal. Just explain the whole piece.
Yeah, I think some know, some don't. This would be in addition to what you normally pay. So summertime rate right now for treated water is going to be about $450 an acre foot. You need to add all of these numbers to whatever you're normally paying. This would be a separate line item for the dry year water. So all the normal costs would be incurred, and then we would add these costs on top of that.
So we're looking somewhere between $800 and $900 an acre foot. That's
what you're
in a ballpark.
And then, looking at this next slide, with the three solutions that look like we've got a little bit of buffer, it probably wouldn't end up needing the Cajon water. We're going to continue to pursue it. As a water person, you want more than you need. You never know where things are going to go. How many of these projects are going to have some issues and may not be able to deliver enough water. We'll continue to probably pursue that and look at having that as a backup. But with those three in place, it looks pretty good. Looks like we can make up the deficit that we've got. Again, the demand supply curve, with these programs in place, we're able to meet all the demands in the aqueduct and using pump back, and then we may have a surplus at the end of the year. Poor water quality is certainly a situation here in the valley. There are a number of constituents. People have had to turn those wells off as regulations have come through or try to blend them down. The aqueduct water, fortunately, has many of those attributes are absent. You don't have a problem with nitrates in the aqueduct. Typically don't have a problem with arsenic in the aqueduct. We have other problems that are created when you treat that water, but overall, it's good quality water, and they can use it for blending. That allows them to continue to use those sources they have. And then overall, just the way our system's set up, we're the highest point typically in the valley. That's really good for water. We pay a lot of money to pump that water up here to the valley. We have excellent pressure. We can supply large volume. Operators go and turn on 5 wells, and that's a heck of a lot more difficult than turning on a turnout and getting that turnout running. The volume is just, we're set up to deliver a lot of water. And again, our water quality has always been very good. So moving on to where we're at as far as where our customers are and the feedback they've given us. We've got about requests that total about 9,700 acre feet. We've got a little bit different number on the commitments, but we'll go over that in a minute. We've got other requests that are kind of outstanding, folks that haven't really got back to us yet, about 150. So that number is about 900, or 9,880 that we're looking at as far as requests. So that matches up pretty good with what is expected as a deficit this year. The upside, of course, is that you pay the actual cost. The downside is that larger users, typically with the allocation procedure we've got, will obtain the largest share of the lowest cost water. So looking at the melded price, essentially all the costs are divided by all the quantities that are needed or used. Upside of that, of course, is everybody has an equal chance of supplies regardless of your usage pattern. One price, one pool. As long as we have enough water to meet everybody's needs, everybody pays the same price. Of course, if you live in an area that the costs are not as high, you're going to pay more than you would have under the tiered price program. Again, another view of our system where we're looking at running at peak flow. We'll talk about the various programs that we've got or ways of getting water in the tiered pricing program. So that a map that shows a few of those. Let's move on to the next one. So here's what the schedule would look like with Tier A through E. Most likely we wouldn't need Tier E. That's the most expensive water, home water. Tier B, I've got the definitions on the next page here. So Tier A is that Strand Ranch water at about 142. Tier B would be well water that's delivered by gravity to our Rosamond water treatment plant. Tier C would be Blaylock water, about $425 an acre foot. Tier D is PRS1 pump back, and finally Tier E is to home ranch. So this is those prices are displayed there along with the amounts we're thinking we can get. The way this would work is when we split up like the way we do our allocations now with our Table A water, we split up by county first, and then we would split it by your usage pattern. And this would probably be a little bit of a complex calculation for the folks to do, and certainly staff could help you out and figure out what your final cost is going to be. Because as the water is exhausted in each tier, then you move to the next tier if you have additional demand. So you can probably move up through Tier A. Some of the folks in the valley here won't be able to get Tier B water because they're not on the downstream side of the Rosamond water treatment plant. But actually most can get the Tier A, C, and D water. And then also we were asked by the committee to look at, replacement water costs. We're putting a replacement water cost component in. We're expecting to pump about 7,700 acre feet this year. So the estimated cost of replacement water is somewhere in about $300 bucks an acre foot. That right now our variable is about 238, and we'd be, recharging this water in the future. So, we're predicting maybe about 300 bucks an acre foot. That might be a little bit optimistic for next year. If we have enough supply to do recharge, that's essentially what we'd be looking at. So one option would be to just equally divide that cost over 4 tiers and add about $75 an acre foot to each tier. We could also weight it over all tiers, or essentially just exclude the last tier and weight it over 4 tiers. You add those prices together, and you're looking at between $30 to $150 an acre foot additional cost to essentially get that replacement water back.
That's on top of your 450, Mike?
And that would be on top of your 450 or whatever your normal rate is. We believe that the tier B would be somewhere around 6,000 GPM.
Tier B is which one? Sorry.
That's the gravity flow water.
Oh, that's the Rosamond.
Right. And then the Blaylock water about 1,600. The Strand Ranch, that is really kind of on-demand type water. We get a certain amount of pumping each month that would be done by our partner up in Kern County, and that would vary.
You don't know
but
how
that would be more on-demand. What we try to do with the Strand is try to get that all delivered, in 4 months. So essentially, we've just displaced a lot of the summer demand type water that we'll need later. Try to get that water in the system as early as we can.
And then you could take it out at whatever rate that you need
Whatever
to.
rate, right, till it was gone.
Is the Strand Ranch on the other side of Tabachi?
Yeah, it's down, actually, it's down, if you've ever been to Kern Water Bank, which is like right along the 5 freeway, their project's on the north side of Kern Water Bank.
Did you buy that water over there? Or?
What we did is we decided we had 5,000 acre feet in excess of what we needed. We went and we essentially recharged it there and gave up essentially half of that. And so the cost to get it in was very minimal. We paid, I think, maybe $10 an acre foot to get it in there.
Can I ask you a question? Why didn't you bank that at your Bodie bank? Was that available at that time?
I think at that time, our recharge rate wasn't, this was a supplement. We were running Godey as fast as we could at that time.
So now you have pump costs that's coming
out.
We're
We're hoping,
out at Kern Valley.
we're hoping that we that we could do it by exchange, but they're telling us there's a pumping cost.
Why is Tejon so expensive on this? Is that sort of the payback for the water that you've purchased in the past?
They right now Tejon is growing crops out there, and they have to fallow crops in order to give us water. We're thinking that the price that they're asking for is not only their labor but also the fallowing of the crops.
What they're losing in the crop. And have you talked to Cal Water? Our Western Development, their bank out there.
We have talked to them. That's actually
And
one
what
of the
do they
supply
want for their
sources
water?
we're looking at.
What have they set your price on their
We
water?
haven't set a firm price on that
Okay.
yet.
91-92, you purchased water from Barnes, and you did that on an emergency declaration. You remember that, Mike? And have you checked into some of these farmers that you can buy some of this water a little bit more reasonable than?
We've looked into
Tejon
most of the folks that were involved in 91. In some cases, those farms have been sold to folks you can't get a hold of.
You can't get a hold of now.
It's very difficult to get a hold of. But yeah, we've looked at just about everybody.
And on your Clandry land, you're pumping groundwater? They're pumping
Yes.
groundwater out there right now?
We're
How much
pumping- not
groundwater
now.
are they pumping?
Right. No,
They're not irrigating that alfalfa out there right
Yes,
now?
we are irrigating out there.
Which
You're talking
part?
about the Clandry ground where we're going to use wells for this project, right?
Okay, have you thought about, maybe, there's a fluent pipeline out of the sanitation district that runs down B to 60th. That fed Gene Niviker for years and years and years. Gene never gets, now he doesn't buy that water. Have you thought about maybe taking and stop pumping in those wells over the Clandry land and maybe running a temporary line 2 miles into into that Clanry land and use
Yeah,
the
the
fluid on that?
biggest difficulty with the effluent water is understanding the price, is getting the price from the sanitation district. We talked to them over the years and trying to figure that out, and I think the county's been involved in that as well. Chad's been one of those that's done that. We charge essentially the same rate, so he'll pay $4.50 for that water, but we'll give him a credit for the cost that he's already incurred, the price that he's paid earlier.
Michael, how many people put hard money up in that bank, besides Chad and John, you just had a white fence farm?
Tom, about 8 people.
Was it hard, Tom, was that
Yeah.
hard money? Was that cash money, or was that money tacked on to so much an acre foot?
We did finance some of the water for LA County at 3% interest. I see it, I finally figured it out. We have to purchase some of this water. Some of that water has to be purchased from AV Water Bank or WBS. Not all of it, thankfully, because it would be even more expensive. But that we have to purchase a certain amount of that water. That's the answer. Okay, sorry.
Because that's,
Now I see where it comes from. So that water has to be purchased. Some portion of it has to be purchased.
and that makes sense why it is the cost of
I'm
what it
glad
is.
that makes sense.
That
That would have been nice to have a tier B1 that said this is purchased and this was.
Well, the problem is, the program
It's hard
doesn't
to-
work.
I understand
We
that.
can't get enough, one of the things you have to do is, like the demand supply curve, you've got to get the water there when it's needed. And that's really what that curve shows. So at times, you actually, even though you're not producing as many acre feet overall, you have to have that extra amount in that time to meet demands.
Right.
So that's, it's a small, like I say, it's a small chunk of what might be needed. Maybe you have the 6,000 GPM, they're providing 2 or 3 or 2,000 GPM, so.
There's another thing too that I think is interesting. For each one of these, to get it into our system from point A to point B, there's an expense. Okay, I'm hearing in the audience that they think that we're pumping our wells because it's part of the SNF system, and why are we charging more money for that? That isn't the point. The point is that wherever this water's coming from, there's expenses to bring that water into the system because they haven't been connected yet. Am I?
You're right, and there are costs in there.
But for B, that is not right, because it's going directly to the SNF line and heading north towards Roseville. So there is.
Going into the West Feeder.
Going to West Meter, so there is no additional treatment to that.
Once it hits Rosamond plant, the 450 takes over, correct.
Right.
That is 100% correct. Like I say, that number, what you're seeing there is you're seeing pumping, you're seeing piping, there's some maintenance costs in there. We've actually had to do some work up ahead of, getting these wells online with switchgear. Today we turned one on and the motor burned up. We're gonna have to get a replacement motor for that. So all of those kind of predictive costs are accounted for in that price. Plus, we have to purchase a portion of that supply. So I see now where everybody's having a little trouble with that.
And Mike, we've signed no contracts, and all of this is subject to plus or minus.
It certainly is.
If we can do any better, we're certainly gonna
Right.
try to do that, and.
That's exactly right.
I'm surprised honestly that the water's so cheap.
Yeah,
I've been in probably about 50 hours on this thing, maybe 60 hours. I mean, this is the cheapest water in the world for dry water, anywhere.
Yeah, somebody up along Friant, I know maybe Mike Riddell knows where this is, some city along Friant Canal or near Friant Canal is paying $2,500 an acre.
Well, how about 1,300 on the other side of the hill? It isn't even going up the hill.
No, I agree with you there. We're working real hard to make this affordable.
And I'm gonna tell you as a director, I am not personally gonna support any freebies here. This is a special project. It's an act of God project. We're doing the best we can. And every cost, including employees, everybody's gonna participate into this project, and this is what the hard costs are. It's all as simple as that. We were the ones that went out and foresight the situation. And so many people didn't want us to get into this system, and thank God we got into the banking business.
Frank, all we're doing is asking for clarification. We're not.
I know.
That's all we want to know.
What I'm saying is.
That's all, we have that right
I know.
to ask you.
There's nobody ripping anybody off, and there's no double dipping. I will defend this board to the end. There's absolutely no double dipping. There is hundreds and hundreds of hours being put into our staff and our employees, and we have to pass that cost on to get this program in place. There's gonna be overtime. Everybody wants, it's a state of emergency. If we don't act right now, you might as well just turn all the water off to the houses, because LA County Waterworks told me, and we got a letter, they'll pay $800 an acre foot. Whatever it takes to get the water right now, they want us to work faster and quicker, and by doing that, it costs a lot of money. May starts next week, in about a week and a half, and hopefully we can get this thing in by what, June, July, August?
Yeah, we want to start pumping, getting all these things going by June 1.
By June 1.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, the picture improves in February. If it hadn't improved, we would have already need to be on. We would have already had to start displacing that water now, like April 1st.
We have a question.
Certainly.
Yeah, I mean, as far as we're concerned, our peak demand is gonna require this dry year water definitely no later than that. I mean, based on our plans, we've got to have these other sources coming online to supply our customers, because by June, our demand's gonna be up where, all the existing supplies are gonna be, tapped out. So we definitely need this water urgently to be established, these programs to be established, because, for us, it's not only the volume of water that we need the capacity, because, in the Antelope Valley, demand is like 4 times, the summer demand is like 4 times the winter demand. And, we've got all our wells cranking right now, and like I said, we're still taking water from you. Come summertime, we're gonna need all these additional supplies online.
You're Los Angeles County?
Yeah.
One thing that has been talked about, and it's been talked about, I believe with the county, is the county makes the lion's share of the water right there. And these rates, we just hate to see these rates go up, but if the county would pay for these improvements out of a rate stabilization or emergency funding, then you would see very little rate increases, for the county, portion, and that would go a long ways, keeping the rates in the stables rather than putting it in the water rate. The person would have to come up with X number of dollars to pay for the county's share, and that would certainly be easier on all the ratepayers, and it may have to be paid back at a later date, but at least you wouldn't see a drastic jump in 1 year. So
I agree with you, George.
Ask about it. We just haven't, to my knowledge, we haven't received a reply. So if we could receive a reply on that, that would certainly be a
Well,
positive.
we've made our reply. I mean, we've signed the form and submitted our request for how much water.
This is talking about what the cost would be, that a couple $1 million that the county would advance that, and not for everyone, but for their portion, then you wouldn't see a rate increase for all the customers. And as I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you have a rate stabilization program or emergency funding, and that would have to be allocated back in later years, but it wouldn't come all in one year. So
all our existing agreements are based on, rates that you guys set, and
well,
we're more than willing to pay our fair share of them.
This is something specifically it's been asked. You would have to front maybe up to $2 million right there. Then, so we just haven't received an answer yet. Have we?
We've sent out, in fact, this is what the next slide is about. We've sent out, the request form. We kind of looked at what we would send out. We've been talking to them, and we have received signed commitments saying that the price of the water is going to be somewhere between $800 and $1,000.
Well, this goes back a second, and we wouldn't have to do that if we received. This is a lot of this. The county takes approximately 75% of the water. If they would upfront that cost, you wouldn't be seeing these numbers. And I know we have asked that. And is that something you can get back with us on? That's what we're talking about. What I'm talking about is different than so much per acre foot.
Yeah, I mean, we're willing to buy all the water that's needed to cover your costs.
This would be, you would front the upfront cost.
Well, I mean, we could, the board would have to do that, or the board of supervisors would have to do that,
That's what we had heard, but we hadn't got a final answer.
Who did you talk to?
That was talked to Adam, I believe. I believe it was Adam.
Just send a letter.
And Norm Hicklin.
Yeah. But you wouldn't see these tremendous jumps It's gonna be, people
Well-
are gonna be hard hit, for the summer, and if they can be allocated over a 5-year period, that water district could, front the capital cost, for your portion of it, front the capital cost, and you may amortize it over a water rate for 5 years, so rather than doubling the water rate in 1 year, there would be an increase in the water rate for this year, but not drastic rate increase.
So George,
And
that's
so,
a good point. So any water company out there that wants to write us a check for their proportion, then the rates don't go up. Is that what you're saying?
yes, exactly.
Well, that's a good
But
point.
we're waiting for an answer, I know that's what I asked, and we just haven't.
Well, what was presented to us was this rate schedule, and that was what presented to our
This
administration.
is separate, forget the
Yeah.
rate schedule, we wouldn't have to do this if the county would front the cost, and that's what was asked. If the county would wish to do it, that would make it a lot easier for a vast number of.
Does that mean then that if they didn't want that option, if they wanted to pay the rate per acre foot, is that option still available to them?
And it's available, I think, if that's, I think, I don't think any of that's changing, but it would just simplify it.
Because that's what they made a commitment on that. They said, if you've got a rate, we'll take this much water and pay that rate. We did present them in
To help
writing. with
preserve
the option.
AVEK's, capital for other projects we're gonna do, but, so that, that's the advantage for AVEK. We have a lot of projects we're gonna do, and we conserve our capital. Because we're talking about at least $2+ million of capital improvements. Is that correct?
3.5.
It kind of depends on how long you run it. I mean, you get the equipment in place, plumbed and everything like that. Mike's made some assumptions about how far, would we rent it for 3 months, would we rent it for 6 months, would we rent it for 8 months?
Lee, did you have a question?
Yeah, I think it got answered. I was gonna ask if the 3 million plus was, if there was any debt service, attached to that. And I think it got answered, George. I think you answered it in as much as you said that it would save your cash flow for other projects. But the way I understand the conversation is each entity that would be stepping up and requesting quantity of water could agree to pay that share to mitigate that cost overall. Is that what I'm hearing?
I agree. I think it's a great, I didn't realize that the option was not presented. We learned something tonight, but I think my proposal would be is, first of all, we're going forward no matter what. This board is not, I don't believe we should stop because we're in an emergency situation. But a new letter she sent out and saying that you have an option after Mike, Dan figure out the cost. You have a choice of paying the cash up front, which, or we'll build it into the water. And that would give you the option of paying either way, while we're going on, still building the facilities. And then also, for Quartz Hill, to meet with, or anybody else wants to sit down with Mike and look at a Excel sheet to see what our costs are, so there's no additional cost involved.
In all of these options, we may not need all of these options, because with the price of water, we may see a lot more conservation. Then in that case, it come back on the water demand or possibly,
But I think that's what we talked about. The retail customer is not gonna see a rate increase because they gotta go through a hearing process. And by the time they notify, do the hearing process, have the appeals, they can't change their rates to the customer probably for 9 months.
Neil, that just applies to the public
That goes to
agencies.
the public
Mutual
agencies,
water
correct.
companies aren't governed by
The mutuals can go faster because they're private.
If you buy this water, it's gonna be additional on top of your water. No
And
water
I think that's what, Chad, did I put the wrong words in your mouth? If you have a number, then you can plan.
I need numbers, yes. I also, the melding, I see it as more of a penalty against us than the idea of, you stick with the numbers you have out there. We have emergency funds, I know you guys have emergency funds for this very situation. You might have to dip into the coffer, we might have to dip into the coffer. The number that I saw up there, I'd say, great, split it for the county, split it for the allocations, let's put it down on the table, and then we can start planning.
the concept of the tier, it's really fair. If you get by with very little water, first tier is much more economical, and if you can't get by, you have to keep going to the more expensive, water, so I think that's pretty, the tier is the most fair method, we have, because some people are not gonna need much water, and they can serve, or they can increase their output, and others possibly may have to go down.
I don't care what you're, I think that we need to vote on that tonight so that they can give us definite letters on what they want. Question?
I have another question for Mike. What commitments do we have right now on water?
So about 7,300 acre feet.
7,300 acre feet of commitments to buy it at 800 to 1,000.
800 to 1,000.
Yeah, and right now we're at 750, so you know what? We got it. We got the people that will support it. Yeah, I mean, you got.
And when, commitments are, we've already signed, money's going to be paid. So we have the commitments. We understand the program. It needs to be, this needs to be started.
So we got a motion. On the floor, a second. It has to be.
Well, we can make a motion to amend the motion to approve the $820,000 tonight. Direct staff to do the program.
I'll second that.
Do we vote
So
on
we
the
vote on the amendment?
This whole situation could easily go into next year. We need to be prepping for this now, which, in my opinion, this should have been done a long time ago. We should have had this thing in and ready to go now, because I don't know, just foresight on my part, I could see this coming. But we have to get this done. I really would like to see you guys look more into electric motors, because I don't want to see diesel motors running next year at all. And if there's any chance that we can order that motor and have that 14-month lead time and have it set up to put it in place of one of those diesels as soon as we get it, have Edison set up, just pull that sucker out, put it in there, and start pumping with it. That's what we should be doing. Diesel is expensive. Electric's a whole lot more cost effective. And this is there's a very good chance this can happen next year. And if it does, and we're still running diesel, that's not going to be a good thing.
Yeah, Director, once Edison's in their engineering design phase for the additional, we order it, I think they'll probably match up. Their engineering design and everything, probably by the time they do all the construction, everything needs to be done, will be matched up real good. And they're just not there yet, unfortunately.
Well, our presentation, if we use Strand Ranch, Blaylock, and Capone, we will have a deficit of 2,200 acre feet. I think that could be made up through conservation and demand reduction. For instance, Director Donato relayed comments from LA County Waterworks District 40 that indicated an additional demand reduction of 20% is available if we simply sent them a letter. So, that's my comment. Roll call vote, please. I'm sorry.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
We already have the commitment for the amount of water that will pay for the program, and we move forward. What is the downside?
The downside is that we could possibly get through the summer without the pump station.
We do not do that.
Customers will pay more.
You say possibly, we know for sure?
Well, I can say that if we have the commitment from our customers to pay the price we pay, we have the insurance that we may even have some extra water if necessary. Why wouldn't we want to move forward?
Another downside is that if we run the pump station, we're withdrawing more water from our water bank, WSSP2, which means we have less water in 2015 if it's dropped.
That makes sense.
Roll call vote, please, Madam Secretary.
And,
Are you done?
Oh,
Being a newest member on this board, I don't have the same level of understanding that the other members have. So that made sense to me. I hadn't heard that.
right. There's a lot we have to do, unfortunately.
yeah, we're just rushing this last few days, and we take a little bit more time to look at some of the other options as Keith, just we spoke of, and as far as negotiating with the cost of the water, that hasn't been looked at on any detailed level. And once we get past this, it's going to be much more difficult than the outside water to be purchased at an economical price.
And the original recommendation was to pass this
The finance committee
with finance.
review it and feedback on those questions can be asking the staff, and especially about that potential need for Valley County in the water district, and you can talk to any other customers, if there's any other water that maybe they can produce. And it's my understanding very recently from staff that we didn't really need that water, we get water without it. So this is really the first time I've heard that they thought we needed it.
About the last board meeting, we were told we were 8,000 feet short.
And conservation, it just hasn't get played in. When you start increasing this water doubling it, we don't know, but it would be nice to find out from other areas what the conservation factor may be. It has the potential to be very significant.
But if we have commitment from our customers who are here asking us to move forward and do this, to pay the bill for it, why would we, under those circumstances, why would we? The county has comments.
As far as demand is concerned, actually in the first 3 months, we've actually exceeded our normal average demand by about 30% because of the low rainfall here. So a lot of our demand is weather dependent, and whether or not our customers would respond to even higher pricing, we're not sure if they would necessarily cut back. First, also, in order to get that pricing into place and them to see the first bill, we're talking most of the way through the summer before they would even have a chance to respond. So the fact that the entire year you get a 20% volume reduction for the entire year is actually overly optimistic right now. If we were starting at the beginning of the year, possibly we could achieve that. But at this point, by the time customers respond, a lot of the demand is going to be already used up.
And I'd like to congratulate LA County Water Works. I got a phone call today telling me to save water.
Yeah.
Is that because most of your bill payers take about a month to open up the mail?
No, part of it is it would have to go through the board process, which is lengthy, and then it takes about 2 months for them to get their bill after that they've seen that. So, and then they have another month to pay. So, by the time there's kind of that feedback loop, and here we are, we're in 4th month of the year already. We would be well through a good portion of the peak demand before customers would be responding.
So you're pretty much
I can respond right now. I'm a customer.
Good. There's one.
LA County has got plenty of our money.
Is that limit that?
What was that?
You want that water within 6-7 weeks. That's what
Right. I mean, we need this dry year program up and running by that time.
Okay.
Any more discussion? Can I ask for clarification on the motion? So the motion, as amended, as I understand it, is to direct staff to come up with 2014 dry year pricing. And it sounded like that was going to be melded, right?
No, I don't think that was just the 800.
The only motion is to approve
Oh, I believe it's, at this point, it's $820,000.
Oh, so the only motion then is to proceed with the purchase of the equipment necessary for the ARS-1 program, or not to exceed the amount of